Order number 1, administration of oath. Order number 2, communication from the chair. Order number 3, messages.
Honorable Senators, I have 2 messages from the National Assembly. I wish to report to the Senate that pursuant to Standing Order number 4.3, I have received the following message from the Speaker of the National Assembly regarding the passage by the National Assembly of the Public Collections Bill, National Assembly Bill number 66 of 2019. And pursuant to the said Standing Order, I now report the message, which I quote, pursuant to the provisions of Standing Order number 41.1 and 142 of the National Assembly Standing Orders, I hereby convey the following message from the National Assembly. Whereas the Public Collections Bill, National Assembly Bill number 66 of 2019 was published via Kenya Gazette Supplement number 157 of 17 September 2019 as a bill that seeks to regulate public collections and Harambee or public fundraising appeals, except public collections for charitable and religious purposes, repeals the Public Collection Act Cap 106 laws of Kenya so as to establish a regulatory mechanism at the national and county levels for the collection of money and property from the public, align the Pre-Independence Public Collection Act Cap 106 with the Constitution of Kenya 2010, including addressing the inequalities, limitations, and inconsistencies of the said law, and in its place have a more robust legal architecture in addressing pertinent issues in public collections. And whereas the National Assembly considered the bill and passed it on Tuesday, 11th May 2021, with amendments in the form attached hereto, now therefore, in accordance with the provisions of Article 10 of the Constitution and Standing Orders number 41.1 and 142 of the National Assembly Standing Orders, I hereby convey the said decision of the National Assembly to the Senate. Honorable Senators, you will recall that following the High Court ruling on 29th October 2020 on Constitutional Petition number 284 of 2019, implementation of the judgment by the Senate commenced. Notably, the High Court ordered that all bills for which the concurrence process contemplated under Article 110.3 of the Constitution could not be demonstrated be ceased and that the said concurrence process be adhered to before introduction of such bills in either House of Parliament. Honorable Senators, the Public Collections Bill, National Assembly Bill number 66 of 2019 is one such bill for which the concurrence process pursuant to Article 110.3 of the Constitution had not been demonstrated by the time the High Court gave its judgment. As such, the bill ought to be aligned to Article 110.3 of the Constitution, following which the bill will be read at the first time in the Senate. In view of the foregoing, the Public Collection Bill, National Assembly Bill number 66 of 2019, as received from the National Assembly via message, dated Thursday, 8th July 2021, will not be proceeded with in the Senate. I thank you. Honorable Senators, I wish to report to the Senate that pursuant to Standing Order number 41.3, I have received the following message from the Speaker of the National Assembly regarding the approval by the National Assembly of the Public Finance Management Equalization Fund Administration Regulation 2021. Pursuant to the Standing Orders, I now report the message that pursuant to the provisions of Standing Order number 41 of the National Assembly Standing Orders, I hereby convey the following message from the National Assembly. Whereas the Cabinet Secretary for the National Treasury and Planning submitted the Public Finance Equalization Fund Administration Regulation 2021 as published by Kenya Gazette Supplement number 69 of 29th April 2021, legal notice number 54 of 2021, whose objective is to provide guidance on the administration and management of the Equalization Fund, whose operations were halted by a court order on 5th November 2019 following petition number 292 of 2016. And whereas the provision of section 2054 of the Public Finance Management Act 2012 requires such regulations to be approved by both houses of Parliament. Further, whereas the National Assembly considered and by a resolution passed on Wednesday 27th July 7, 2021, approved the regulations in the form published by the Cabinet. Now, therefore, a furtherance to the provisions of Standing Order 210 of the National Assembly Standing Order, I hereby convey the said decision of the National Assembly to the Senate. Honorable Senators, pursuant to Standing Order 222 of the Senate, I now refer the said regulations to the Committee on Delegated Legislation for consideration. I thank you. Next order.
Order number 4, petitions. Order number 5, papers. Order number 6, notices of motion. Order number 7, statements.
I'll start with the Leader of Majority.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, sir, pursuant to Standing Order 52.1, I hereby present to the Senate the business of the House for the week commencing Tuesday, 20th July 2021. Mr. Speaker, sir, on Tuesday, 20th July 2021, the Senate Business Committee will meet to schedule the business of the Senate for the week, subject to further direction by the House Business Committee. The Senate will on Tuesday, 20th 2021, July, consider bills at the first reading, second reading stage, and motions on reports of various standing committees as contained in the program of the Senate business. The Senate will also continue with consideration of the bills, motions, petitions, and statements that will not be concluded in today's order paper. On Wednesday, 21st July 2021, the Senate will continue with business that will not be concluded on Tuesday, 20th July 2021, and any other business scheduled by the Senate Business Committee, while on Thursday, 22nd July 2021, the Senate will continue with business that will not be concluded on Wednesday, 21st July 2021, and any other business. Mr. Speaker, we have a total of 33 bills due for second reading. 4 of these bills are due for division and have been listed in today's order paper. These are the Community Health Services Bill, Senate Bill number 34 of 2020 by Senator Agnes Zani. Number 2, the Investment Promotion Amendment Bill, Senate Bill number 2 of 2021 by Senator Dr. Milgo. Number 3, the Parliamentary Powers and Privileges Amendment Bill, Senate Bill number 33 of 2020 by Senator Agnes Zani. Number 4, the National Flag, Emblems and Names Amendment Bill, Senate Bill number 36 of 2020 by Senator Agnes Zani. In addition, there are 3 bills at the Committee of the Whole stage. These are the Cooperative Societies Amendment Bill, Senate Bill number 11 of 2020 by Senator Agnes Zani. Number 2, the Mental Health Amendment Bill, Senate Bill number 28 of 2020 by Senator Architect Sylvia Kasanga. Number 3, the Wildlife Conservation and Management Amendment Bill, Senate Bill number 30 of 2020 by Senator Jones Mwaruma. Mr. Speaker, I want to urge all senators to avail themselves for the division of the bills at the second reading stage and the respective movers and responsible standing committees chairperson to be available for the bills at the Committee of the Whole stage. Allow me, Mr. Speaker, to take this opportunity to remind chairpersons of standing committees to hasten consideration and public participation engagement on all bills committed on their respective committees. As reported during the meeting of all senators earlier today, we have a heavy workload ahead of us, and it is imperative that we all play our part in facilitating and expediting the legislative business to proceed to the next stage. Mr. Speaker, sir, I thank you and hereby lay the statement on the table of the Senate. I thank you.
Next statement is by Senator George Haniri.
Can I have the mic? Okay, thank you. Mr. Speaker, I thank you for the opportunity to make this statement. I rise pursuant to the provisions of our standing orders, and in particular standing order number 47, paragraph 1, to make a statement on a matter of county-wide, although I say county-wide, but I think it's a national concern, because this concerns, it's a national matter. Mr. Speaker, that is the suspension of the implementation of Vihiga County budget for the financial year 2021-2022. Notwithstanding the fact that the matter is actively in court, I am compelled to make this statement on the understanding that the residents of Vihiga County expect a voice on this matter from their senator and the Senate as the guardian of devolution in Kenya. Additionally, I make this statement in full realization that our judiciary is robust and fully independent, and that its final judgment will not be influenced in any way by these proceedings. Mr. Speaker, the county government of Vihiga finds itself in an unfortunate situation whereby the county cannot implement the current approved budget at the onset of the financial year. This occurrence has been triggered by a constitutional petition that alleges deliberate and blatant ignorance of mandatory constitutional and legal requirements, dictates, in the making of the county budget. In particular, Mr. Speaker, the Public Finance Management Act 2012, Section 129, provides that a county executive committee member for finance shall submit to the county executive committee for its approval the budget, estimates, and other supporting documents and county level draft bills required to implement the county government budget in sufficient time. This is in line with Article 179, paragraph 1 of the Constitution that states that the executive authority of the county is vested in and exercised by a county executive committee. After the approval above, the documents are then to be submitted by the county executive committee member for finance to the county assembly for deliberation and final passage. Allegations that these documents were never tabled and approved by the county executive committee, or a provision of evidence to confirm tabling of the same before being submitted to the county assembly, is the root cause of the suspension of the county budget, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, it is very suspect that a county executive that has been in office for the last 4 budget cycles can blatantly fail to follow the laid down procedures in the budget making process. The centrality of fidelity to the Constitution in governance, and especially matters of public finance, cannot be gainsaid. The current stalemate has obvious far-reaching implications, chiefly in terms of processing salaries and statutory deductions for all staff in the county, procurement of essential goods and services, payment of pending bills, and the whole tendering process. Mr. Speaker, it is extremely difficult to understand the real motivation to the standoff, especially given the fact that the alleged illegalities were noted and communicated to the concerned office bearers as early as 3rd May 2021. Why a whole county executive would fail to discuss and approve the budget estimates at the county executive committee level is suspect, to say the least. As my colleague senator observed the other day, governors and their county executive members will abuse this budget circle to build their campaign financing kitty and personal wealth. The leadership of Vihiga County has failed in line with Article 10 of the Constitution on national values and principles of governance. Mr. Speaker, the issue of suspension of the county budget is only a tip of the iceberg in the governance problems in Vihiga County. The other issues include non-payment of recurrent staff in the health department that has been pending for more than 2 years now. It is unfortunate that even with the foregoing, an allocation for the payment of the health workers was not factored in the current budget estimate despite a court order. Other matters are a bloated payroll, the numerous impeachment motions in the county assembly in the recent month, which are subject in court, and the plans to suspend the county government as stipulated in Article 192 of the Constitution and Section 123 of the County Governments Act 2012. To put it into perspective, Mr. Speaker, the state in Vihiga County government can be termed as a situation of musical chairs, where the concerned have ignored their core mandate and responsibility and chosen confusion and witch hunt. Mr. Speaker, it is important that leaders always have in mind that leadership is a responsibility that demands so much. We are approaching the elections, and voters will judge all the elected leaders rightly on their performance. While the Constitution of Kenya provides for rights and freedoms, including election and litigation rights, all of us should never lose focus of the greater good. All the provisions of the law should be followed and not abused for political expedience. Lastly, Mr. Speaker, I remind the members of the Vihiga County Assembly and members of all county assemblies in the country that they are the first line of defense for the counties and their government. In Vihiga County, the members should rise to the occasion and apply Section 134, Paragraph 1 of the Public Finance Management Act 2012 to authorize the withdrawal of money from the County Revenue Fund to cushion the public and ensure continuity in provision of services to the people of Vihiga. Mr. Speaker, I thank you.
Leader of Minority, Senator Rengo.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The issues raised by Senator Haniri, distinguished senator from Vihiga, are very serious. Indeed, if all that is enumerated reflects what is going on the ground, then one would really wonder what is going on in Vihiga. But I've noted that there are many, many impeachment motions concerning members of the executive before the National Assembly, and that has been talked about in this statement. On page 3 of this statement, Honorable Haniri, Senator Haniri, has enumerated very, very, very important issues and difficulties that are now encountering the county of Vihiga. And I was just counting out the number of problems that he has spelled out. They're numbered to almost 10 of them. But the question of suspension of a county government is as worse as it can get. More than even making laws at the county level, the capacity to be able to have a budget that goes through the National Assembly and then is administered for the benefit of the people of Vihiga is an important mandate of the people, or rather the county government of Vihiga. And if what is happening in Vihiga, as recounted by Senator Haniri, and Senator Haniri is not fond of making statements which has no basis, then I would recommend, Mr. Speaker, that probably we need to form a team from the Senate, from the Committee on Devolution and Finance, to go to Vihiga. And not like today. I mean, it should have happened like yesterday. Because if we are the protectors of the counties, the Constitution says we are there to represent and protect the counties. And we should not wait until the problem now is difficult to deal with. And as you can see, there's even contemplation of the suspension of the county government, that should be a matter of last resort. But in the meantime, before we get there, Mr. Speaker, I would really recommend that we have two committees. Go to Vihiga, and go to Vihiga because we want these committees to get the views of the people on the ground and bring a report back to this House, a report on which the Senate can take some action in one form or the other. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Onesimus, more comment?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I want to thank Senator George Khaniri again for coming up with this very important statement. And I don't know where he is, but Mr. Speaker, I think this is, we went through the same in last term in some instances in some counties, but the Finance Committee in some cases, the Devolution Committee managed to intervene and assist the county governments to find solution. The problem here is that you have a decision that has been made by the courts and under an application by a citizen, and not any of the parties within management of county government. My take would be that, one, I understand from the facts that the governor cannot convene a county executive committee meeting. That is strange, because everybody in the county executive committee is an appointee of the governor. And Mr. Speaker, in the past, before I brought an amendment in this House that was passed in the National Assembly and was signed into law late last year, counties executive members, governors found it difficult to fire their CCs. But we made it clear in the law, and it's now part of the County Government Act, that he can hire and fire at will. Why can the governor fire all his CCs and hire new ones if they cannot meet in a... I would understand if it was a tussle between county executive and the assembly. But where you are saying the reason why you don't have a budget in a county is because an organ that is controlled by the governor cannot meet. Mr. Speaker, this is unacceptable. And I think maybe the governor needs proper legal advice on how to go about this business. He should fire all the CCs, appoint new ones, and then hold a meeting, and then file papers in court showing that he has rectified, Mr. Speaker, the anomalies that existed in the budget making. I think this is something that, first of all, we should tell the governor of Vihiga. But number two, I agree with Senator Orengo, the minority leader, that a committee of this House, either the committee I sit in, is the Devolution Committee or the Finance Committee, should be tasked to follow up this matter and report to this House the soonest, so that the people of Vihiga do not suffer. And I agree entirely with Senator George Khaniri that if we are not careful, Mr. Speaker, most of the budgets for this term and for this very period and for this time when we have a confusion of an election coming up, it is likely to be misused to enrich individual governors or CCs or chief officers who know that maybe this is the last time they are going to hold the offices they are holding at the moment. And we must be vigilant as a House, and we must also work closely with EACC, Mr. Speaker, to put measures in place that will ensure that public resources are not stolen by individuals who know that they may never, ever again have an opportunity to be re-elected to public office. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Moses Wetangula.
Mr. Speaker, Vihiga County is now distinguishing itself as a small county with big problems. And Mr. Speaker, this is not very good, because we want devolution to work, and devolution must work. And under Article 96 of the Constitution, the last line of defense for devolution is this House. So when we have this kind of unique but avoidable difficulties, then this House must rise to the occasion. I've read through this statement, Mr. Speaker, What I fail to appreciate is what Senator Murgomen, distinguished Senator for Elgeyo Marakwet, is saying, that if there's a standoff between the executive and the assembly, we can understand. But a standoff within the executive is inexplicable, because the governor can hire and fire at will those members of the executive. And if they are not working, they have no business being there. I thought I read somewhere a few weeks ago that 4 members of the executive had in fact been impeached by the assembly, and that the governor had followed the impeachment by dismissing them. Has he replaced those impeached executive committee members? And those within the executive that are not functioning, why are they still there? Because, Mr. Speaker, I must say the governor of Vihiga is our former colleague. When he was a member of parliament, he was extremely respected, especially his commitment and knowledge in environmental issues. Who should be picked to sit on these public boards that are spending public resources? Equally important, and I want to laud this, Senator Milgo, that nobody should just walk into any part of this country and establish an institution without standardization. So they need to be checked, vetted, licensed, and adhere to the standards set by the National Council that is dealing with all these standards. Examinations that are conducted in these institutions are also standardized, and that is a very good idea, so that when you get a plumber from Wajir, his or her quality should not be any different from a plumber from Bomet or Kericho, because they are learning the same things, they are doing the same exams and getting the same qualifications, and they can work anywhere in this country. This is the only way that we can turn around our country. And by emphasizing this middle-level training, now this Senate is living to its billing as the protector of devolution. Because if the counties train good quality technicians, any technicians from Kericho working in Nairobi end up net importers of capital from Nairobi to Kericho, for Kericho to grow. So we'll be competing. Who has the best quality technicians? Who has the best quality institutions? Who has the best quality vocational training teachers? So that we can be able to grow our economy and stop lamenting and crying about which country overtook us at what time and where, so that we can be able to stand in our own right. Today, Madam Speaker, as we speak, as I come to an end, everybody's talking about Rwanda overtaking everybody in this region, a country that has gone through so much difficulty. And yet, we have resources. We have some of the best human resource development in the entire developing world, but we have been overrode by corruption to the extent that things simply don't work. I want finally to urge the Ministry of Education in conjunction with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs to market our technicians to the rest of the world. The only way we can be able, why should South Africa import fitters from Malaysia or from India or from Sri Lanka when Kenya is here with top-level polytechnics churning out people who we do not market? Any Kenyan you find out there, Madam Speaker, and all of us travel a lot, you find a Kenyan in America, the last thing they want to know is where government resides. Because government doesn't help them, government doesn't care, government doesn't bother. They all go there on their own, struggle on their own, live on their own, and the only time they encounter with government is when they are struggling to renew their passports. Nothing else. We want, Madam Speaker, as we continuously talk of the diaspora bringing resources to this country, to be part of taking our diaspora out there so that they can be able to be part of the growth of this country. Senator Milgo, congratulations for this bill, and we'll support it through. Whatever amendments you bring, circulate to us, we work together, and then from there on, we want to see a proper collaboration between the national government and the county governments to make sure that this big dream works and works well for our country. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Wetangula. Senator Murgomen, Onesmus Kipchumba.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. First, I want to thank the Education Committee led by Senator Milgo and previously led by Senator Langat, and I'm sure you are a member of that committee when you started this very important, you were the vice chair actually, when you started this very important bill. I know, Madam Speaker, this is an area that is very dear to you, both as an academician and an administrator in the academy, and later also as a minister in the same ministry. And Madam Speaker, this bill is very good because it's timely. It's time for us to think about our education. If we want to go far as a country, we must reorientate our education to the things that matter for our people. We know that for a long period of time, technical education has been ignored because we are pursuing university degrees, we're pursuing papers at the expense of quality of education itself. Madam Speaker, this is an area that I am extremely interested as a person who has been in the past a teacher in the university. And it's something that usually bothers me because even when I had a short stint teaching in a high school, I used to wonder why students that leave high school and they have studied agriculture are unable to compete with their parents, even for simple things like for poultry or vegetables, and make some money from it, even if they are Form 4 dropouts. Why? That is the question we should always be asking ourselves. Why? How come after our children finish Form 4 and they don't get an opportunity even to further their education, there is no that small thing they take from the university, from high school itself, that they can be able to implement? It is because we've not put emphasis on technical education. And this bill that deals with vocational education and training is timely. Madam Chair, I wonder how the committee is going to receive our recommendations. I don't know how. This is a question I was just asking myself here, and I'm surprised 8 years down the line, this is the question I'm asking myself. Who reviews a bill that has been developed by a committee and it is in the committee stage? You know, the bill is for committee. It's come to the House for second reading. It's after committee processes, there will be an amendment. I think that's a practice that we need to relook, because then we are giving all the suggestions that we are giving now to the same Committee of Education to review its own bill for purpose of amendment. And of course, some of us are going to suggest certain amendments that should be included in this bill. The first thing I'd like to look at is the definition of what is a vocational education and training. This is not in the bill itself. Of course, the bill, you understand what Senator Wetangula was saying. To define it in one way is to exclude it in many other ways. So the bill itself says that vocational education and training means vocational and training program imparted to a trainee in a vocational education and training center. In other words, it says nothing about, about the vocational training itself. But there is something important about the definition, in my own opinion, and it starts with the Constitution. For it to be a level of education that is administered by county governments, I think it's important to locate its place in the Constitution. And the Constitution itself, in Schedule 4, Part 2, defines the functions of county governments to include in the part, Part 9, which is pre-primary education. That is paragraph 9 of Part 2. It says pre-primary education, village polytechnics, homecraft centers, childcare facilities are functions of county governments. So for it to be a function of county government, we must locate the definition of a vocational institution to be part of what was anticipated to be a village polytechnic. So that in the definition itself, we should be able to find a definition that says vocational training includes, but not limited to, as defined by the Constitution, village polytechnics, And you can add other definitions that I have seen in other very important journals and reports. I have seen also definitions from articles and reports, including reports of World Economic Forum, that vocational training is defined as programs or courses that focus on the skills required for a particular job function or trade. It's also defined as hand-on job-specific instructions and can lead to certification, diploma, or even a degree. Some of the examples of vocational training given, Madam Speaker, by various universities, colleges that offer vocational training here and abroad is that, courses like automobile repair, plumbing, culinary arts, graphic design, fashion design, welding, massage therapy, carpentry, cosmetology, which I think it deals with cosmetics, photography, website design, carpentry, electricians, and so forth and so forth. Those are some of the definitions given from various sites I've read and colleges and universities all over the world that offer vocational training. But why the definition is also important is because, Madam Speaker, some of the regulatory requirements of this bill would expect county government to regulate to a certain extent or to license a college to a certain level. I was conversing with Senator Milgoy and asking her, so which one will be called the vocational training institution in my county and which one will be called the technical training institution? So its definition also must distinguish and must provide some level of graduating the licensing and the management process, because this is where we will now come back and say resources will follow functions. But for us to be able to say which resource will be managed by what level of government and which money will be given to what level of government, we need to define it well. So that then if it's a function that goes to county government, look at what the bill says about the responsibility of county government. It includes hiring of technicians, trainers, Madam Speaker, remunerating those trainers and ensuring that the trainers have quality education. Senator Langata said here, you go to one county, you have one being paid 6,000, in another one 10,000 to be an instructor, and another one 20,000. There must be uniform payment for these people, of course, taking into consideration allowances for unique areas. There must be uniform remuneration for the trainees. But for us to do that and for county government to be in charge, we must first to come and ask ourselves, up to what level is this training? Then we can now leave county government to do it, so that we don't create in law something that practically on the ground county government cannot finance. They're already struggling with ECDs. They're already struggling with recurrent expenditure. Even for them to hire agriculture extension officers becomes difficult. So we just don't need to give county government the function itself without asking ourselves, are they able to implement it? And if we think that there would be doubt in some of the counties to be able to implement this, then we create a window of that partnership between national and county government, including through conditional grants that are allowed by the Constitution for purpose of management of the county functions. That, I think, is a very important part of the law that we are going to make, so that it become as practical as possible. Madam Chair, I really like the Speaker. I like the fact that there is a clear role given for management of vocational education and training center, the structures that are required, the standards that are required, the people who are going to be employed to work there, the permits that you must receive, so that then we put the standard of vocational training in every county of the same level. But the question we also need to ask ourselves, this training will be up to which level? Is it going to offer, first of all, it is not in my interest, and I think it's not the interest of vocational trainers, that a lot of focus should go to what certification you are giving to that person, whether it's a certificate, a diploma, or a degree. our focus, because we are distinguishing vocational training from the formal training we've been having through high school, university, and other colleges, this one should focus more on the skills. Because we are telling somebody, you have opened a salon, you understand a little bit of what you are doing there, but come here, get more skills. So that if that person has a certificate or not, he can be able to be the best salonist in whatever area they are. We are telling that person, you know, you have some knowledge about how to massage. You know, our grandmothers, you know, were not, they didn't have any certification, but they knew who was the best masseur in the local area. You know, this, if you are hurting, if you have a certain problem, this is Mama so and so will come and deal with your situation, because they understood, Madam Speaker, that it is important to focus on the skills more than the certificate. So the question we should ask ourselves is that up to what level are we going to focus on this? If we conclude that it's only up to certificate level, then it becomes also easy for us to distinguish the colleges that are going to be run by county government alone and the ones that are going to be run by the national government. But then why would you build an institution, a big structure, and then you say certificate alone? That is why...
Honorable Senator, there is a point of order from
okay,
Senator
thank you,
Ongeri.
thank you, sir.
Would you like me to inform you? I can inform
Please.
you. I
Thank
think
you.
somewhere in the bill.
Of course, you are the person.
Thank you, Senator Murkomen. In the bill, it clearly stipulates that the level of entry will be at the craftsman level. And I think we have a benchmark through which we can then be able to do the necessary appraisal in terms of support and the financing and the budget provision. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator.
I appreciate the information from the former cabinet secretary responsible for vocational training plus science and technology. So I have no doubt in my mind that it is competent enough to inform me. My only concern is not the entry, it's the exit. You know, you are exiting at what level in the institution that is going to be managed by the county government. And if we go and cap it and say you can only get a certificate from there, then we will also waste resources. Because if you have built a big structure, an institution that can still offer certificate, but there is room for it to offer a diploma, a degree, you know, for the same people, then Senator Milgo and your committee, we need to look at how that graduated management or co-management with the participation of national government, or how the national government can be able to transfer its function in terms of training beyond the certificate level to a county government through an agreement that once you achieve certain level of the county government, those people can be admitted to these other courses within the same institution, but now being oversighted by relevant officers of national government. We need to find a way of marrying the two, then you don't waste the resources that come with establishing and putting there the structure that is for training. Maybe something else I just bring to the attention of the committee is that the bill needs a lot of cleaning. If you look at the bill, it says, for example, in section 23, it says, the board shall conduct its affairs in accordance with the provision of second schedule of Technical and Vocational Education and Training Act. And the second schedule is not there. There is actually no schedule, not even a second one. So the bill need to clear, because there's things missing in the bill that is being cross-referenced, but you don't have the schedule attached to this very important bill. Finally, Madam Speaker, because I don't want to say so many things about this bill, I like the fact that the bill has already quality and education training, and maybe something about quality education in this country that we must just put an eye on. It must not be left to the wishes and the ingenuity or lack of it of the cabinet secretary responsible for education at any given time. So that we are only talking about education is gone, the quality of education is high because the cabinet secretary is so and so, and quality of education is such and such because the cabinet secretary is so and so. It's important as a country that these institutions operate independently without political or ethnic consideration. Number two, we need to remove education sector from our bad manners of tribalism. And if we have to do that, we must allow the technocrats and the public servants to operate independent of our political interference. There was a time, Madam Speaker, that depending on who is the cabinet secretary, you determine who is the principal of a certain school, who is the board member of a certain school, who is, so you end up, you go to a certain institution, you find everybody's a Marakwet. Let me use an example that is less controversial, because I'm a Marakwet. You find everybody's a Marakwet. Then you ask why, they say, but the minister was a Marakwet, and we glorify it. This country glorifies those behaviors, because when I become the cabinet secretary of education, it becomes, okay. Please hold my time, because I have less than 5 minutes.
Mr. Speaker, is the distinguished Senator for Elgeyo Marakwet in order to set out lamentations on the floor of this House on, in fact, a policy perfected by his government? We have seen, Madam Speaker, members of boards appointed, 7 of them from one ethnic community, 5 appointed, 4 from one ethnic community. We have seen, Madam Speaker, in his backyard, a vice chancellor flashed out from a university because he's not from a certain community. And to his credit, at least he resisted that.
Senator Murkomen,
Madam
please,
Chair,
you have
first of all,
3 minutes.
First of all, Madam Chair, that's not a point of order, but be it as it may, let me say this. I have no government yet. Yeah, when I form my own government, Madam Chair, I will be held into account. I'll be held into account about the functions and the cabinet secretaries within my government. Number 2 is to continue insisting that we need to divorce. If you look at the fights that used to take place, and I don't know why Senator Wetangula is just mentioning Moi University, and he knows my position at that time when people are saying, thank you very much for that. It's not just about talking about Moi University. There was a time the fight in the University of Nairobi was about this tribe is in charge of this and this tribe is in charge. The same to Kenyatta University, the same to Maseno University. The same, all these universities have gone through these problems of ethnic profiling. And every time a new cabinet secretary comes, he wants to change the council, the board, the Senate, and everywhere to suit, particular tribal inclination. And it's Kenyans who encourage this behavior. Madam Chair, Kenyans, if you ask them, can you vote for so-and-so to become president of Kenya? They tell you, no, hata, let me say in Kiswahili, hata hakusaidia watu yake. He didn't help his people. But if you put your people everywhere, then everybody says, yo ni mtu mzuri, he's a good man. He put everybody who comes from his tribe in this and this particular place. That behavior should come to an end. We must be able to treat university institutions, colleges, training institutions in a professional manner, whereby any person who comes from anywhere, and I agree with Senator Wetangula, a vocational training college should be able to accommodate any student from any part of the country and train them in any county to get the skills they require. So that when we talk about bottom-up approach to economic growth, Madam Chair, we have the necessary skills. This is, by the way, in the Hustlers Manifesto. This is the key principle that we want to pursue. And the deputy president, who was a former minister in the same ministry you succeeded, has always been a great champion for this level of education, vocational and training and technical and training institutions, because this is where we should go. So that, as I conclude, we do not get ranked like the way we are at the moment. The Global Human Capital Report of 2017 ranks us 78, below Cameroon, below countries like Slovenia, and all these other parts of the world. Imagine even Rwanda is ranked higher when it comes to training for purpose, their people for purpose of skills. The most important thing we must do as a nation is to invest in this area, even if we are to export human capital to other parts of the world who have these technical skills. Madam Speaker, I support and I believe the committee, please take it very seriously, our recommendations, clean the bill, even if you require the services of experts in technical area in our universities. Tap into that expertise, work with the ministry himself, clean this bill, And let's pass this bill expeditiously so that it becomes one of our achievements before this term, the 12th Parliament, comes to an end.
Thank you, Senator Murkomen. Senator Mogeni, Eric Okongo.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for also giving me an opportunity to make my contribution to this very important and progressive bill. Madam Speaker, I first want to begin by congratulating my neighbor, Senator Dr. Milgo, the chair of the Committee of Education, and also the former chair of that committee, my good neighbor, Senator Langat, for the good work that has gone into preparing this bill. And Madam Speaker, I served, I think for 2 years in the Committee of Education, and we were part of the brains behind the development of this bill, which I must say is very, very progressive and will be very useful to our counties. Madam Speaker, you know, if you read our Constitution, I think that is fourth schedule, part 2, one of the functions of the county government, and the words that were used are very specific, Madam Speaker. It says implementation. You know, when you're being told implementation, you have been given an obligation. It says part of the functions of county government is implementation of specific, sorry, I think I'm reading the wrong one. Yes, to implement pre-primary education, village polytechnics, home craft centers, and child care facilities. But Madam Speaker, if you go to most of our counties, you don't see these centers. I've been to a number of counties and you don't see these centers. So it's a very good idea that the Committee of Education has thought it wise to create a legal framework that will govern the establishment and management of vocational education and the training centers in our counties. Because if you don't guide these counties, you will never see them fully taking up the functions that have been assigned to them under the Constitution. Madam Speaker, you had the debacle we had on what is happening in the county of Vihiga. So we, as protectors of devolution, we must step in to come with laws that must guide our counties in ensuring that they implement the functions that have been assigned to county governments under our Constitution. Madam Speaker, in the last 10 years or so, this country has seen unplanned expansion of universities all over, in many counties, are very unplanned. Yes, as Senator Wetangula is saying, you walk in some towns and you will find students on some buildings where downstairs we have funny businesses, including bars, you know, which is very unfortunate. Madam Speaker, some of us who went to pioneer universities, like University of Nairobi, we knew universities as centers of learning where we do serious business, where you don't just mix things anyhow. And there, I must confess that there are universities that have been set in the countryside with beautiful facilities. Even and a good example is Kisii University, which is former Kisii College, away from the town with a field for students to engage in extracurricular activities and the likes. But then
thinking of, we should not be thinking of taking our children to go and do the technical colleges out there, because in Kenya itself, we cannot even compare ourselves with Uganda. We cannot even compare ourselves with Rwanda, because those two countries, they have developed their own TVET colleges, and their diplomas and technical courses are much better than ours. Every time I step in my home in the village, I would definitely need a plumber, or I may need a mason, I may need an electrician. There's no day I will go over the weekend and not miss to look for one of them. But in my village, I would only be looking for 3 people. There's only one plumber, maybe one electrician, and maybe one mason. Because most of our students don't want to be trained. They think that is not good enough for them. Yet, these three people I've mentioned, they have homes, they run them, they have permanent houses, their children are going to school, but maybe they didn't have their degree. And true, they don't have degree courses, but they have the technical ones, and it is helping them. So as a nation, we should bring ourselves at a level that we accept that we can move, and any student who may not get an A or a B can start from wherever they are with a D or a C minus and move forward and still achieve their goals. I think we should stop stereotyping, and I think we should stop putting too much emphasis on white-collar jobs, because right now it is really taking us nowhere. Madam Speaker, I want to say that the issue of culture. In Kenya, we are very rich in culture. In our TVETs or technical colleges, we can develop even the instruments for culture, the culture itself, music itself, talent. We have our children with great talents that may not be accommodated at the university levels, but in our TVETs and in our polytechnics and in our what you call technical colleges, we should be able to bring everybody on board. The type of education that we have now, Madam Speaker, is whereby there is graduation. After class 8, standard 8, you graduate to Form 1. And after Form 1, these children should be able to graduate so that you don't stop at Form 4. If all of us are going to stop at Form 4, then we need to graduate at least to some technical college or some diploma some technical, diploma or higher diploma. That way, I think we will have helped our system, we will have helped our intellectual level of upgrading our students, so we don't stop at class 8 or we don't stop at Form 4. Because if we stop there, somebody who has just done Form 4 or standard 8, they are almost the same. But if you give them a technical training or upgrade them, you give them something, you give them some work to do, you give them some income. There are many people looking for our young people to work. And I've already mentioned, and many other senators have also mentioned, many countries are looking for technically trained people. But unless we come back and go to the basics to make sure that we show by example that even our own children and our own relatives can go to these technical colleges or these village polytechnics or TVETs, that is the only way. We must lay emphasis and we must make sure that we make them believe, yes, that these technical colleges are good for us. We should develop them. We should standardize them. We should make sure that they are properly run and properly financed. So, because you can also have them, but they are not financed. You can also have them, but not properly, the infrastructure may not be really up to standard. Because I've given as an example of my own. If you go to a Hero or Boya, it is known as Boya, looking at it, it's not properly. The infrastructure is really not good. But right now, the local people have seen the benefit that if I can't afford a boarding school or a boarding college, I should be able to take my child to the next door, to next door here, and from there they have seen results. So let us believe in ourselves, let us believe in our country. And I really want to support this bill because it is good. A few amendments here and there will make it much better, and we want to give Kenyans a very good bill that will stand the test of time and that will produce a good education and a good development for the benefit of this country. I thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Senator Nyamunga. Senator Jeriot Aaron Kipkurui.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for this chance. Madam Speaker, I want to congratulate the Committee of Education for this very progressive bill. This is one upon whose completion Senate will definitely hang it in our collection book of bills that we have passed in this House, Madam Speaker, that will, if properly implemented, because you know passage of bills and implementation are two different and distinct things, Madam Speaker. But let us deal with first things first. Let us discuss it, pass it, then of course the responsibility of ensuring that it is properly implemented much as it lies with the executive, we shall be here also, God willing, Madam Speaker, to oversight and ensure that the dream of the crafters of this bill is realized, in ensuring that we have equipped our young people, Madam Speaker, with the requisite skills to be able to face life and make their contribution into making this country, Madam Speaker, the republic that we all dream of. Therefore, Madam Speaker, I do congratulate the team that has worked on, led by Senator Dr. Alice Milgo and her committee, for this very progressive bill. Madam Speaker, for many times in season, we have spoken about the need for us as a country to rethink, reevaluate, and perhaps pause for a moment and reimagine the kind of education system that we are using in this country, whether it is helping us, whether it is giving us the intended results, or whether we had reached a point, as many have said, because I've taken time to listen to the contribution of many of our colleagues, that indeed we missed a point somewhere when we thought that the alpha and the omega of an educated population is just a society made up of graduates alone. Little did we know that after you return and you've come back with your degree certificate, and if you're fortunate to get a job, that you'll still need a plumber, you'll need a craftsman, you will need a tailor, you will need a mason. Many of us never sat for a moment to imagine and think that those people will be in such high demand that it will get to a point that their skills actually will end up being more expensive or marketable, if I may use such a language, Madam Speaker, than those who have filled up degrees in their academic, stars and happy celebrating, saying, I have this degree from such and such a university, but no job to show. Madam Speaker, this is such a progressive bill because of 3 or 4 factors that I have picked out from my quick reading of this particular bill, which I want to quickly enumerate and perhaps share 1 or 2 thoughts about things which I think the committee and the rest of us all should consider when it comes to amendments that are proposed in this particular bill, just to make it better and ensure that it serves the purpose for which it was intended. The first and most important aspect about this bill is in part 2, Madam Speaker, where it speaks to the uniformity of these institutions, that you can see there is an intention and a desire by the crafters of this bill to ensure that much as we are giving the free rein and the license to our various county governments to set up these tertiary institutions, we are ensuring that there will be uniformity, as such that you will not find in this particular county, this is what is considered to be a TVET institution, while in others people can sit down under a tree and say, oh, this is our own version of what you consider to be a TVET institution. That aspect is important, Madam Speaker, because we have learned from what happened in the liberalization of universities, in the liberalization even of high school education, Madam Speaker. You'll recall that there was a time that the Ministry of Education had tried to expand the presence of education centers in this republic, has licensed so many schools that were not even meeting the basic requirements of what is supposed to be at school. If you walked in this CBD, there were high schools even in this city at one particular time, where on first floor, you find that it is a hotel selling chips and sausages, second floor is a disco, and on third floor is a high school. This is the kind of scenario that part 2 of this particular bill is avoiding, where you have uniformity of institutions and you ensure that we inform and we guide the standards so that across all our 47 counties, Madam Speaker, when you set up an institution, it must pass certain checks. And I hope, Madam Speaker, as a House of Parliament, we will perhaps get to a point where one day, in just trying to see how overall we can develop the tools that are necessary for us to perform our work as an institution of oversight, ensure that we set up an oversight team that is separate even from us as members of Parliament alone. Because as it is right now, it just depends on our interaction with members of the public and the things that we hear across the board. We should be able to have an oversight unit within the institution that points out You know, there are so many legislations that we have passed on standards of various things to do with the environment, to do with education, to do with the health sector. Of course, as a human being, you cannot remember all of them. But if you are to have an oversight unit that will always point out to us and remind us as an institution that being the institution that is charged with the mandate and the responsibility of ensuring that certain standards are met in the various sectors of our economy, we will be able to point out, Madam Speaker, and say, this and this hasn't been met. That is why this part 2 is extremely important, Madam Speaker, and I appreciate that particular inclusion. In part 3, Madam Speaker, is where I foresee a challenge. Because I've been a member of Budget and Finance Committee, Madam Speaker, for quite a long time. In fact, for both sessions of the last 2 sessions of Senate, or terms of Senate actually, Madam Speaker. We initially used to read in our budget allocations that 2 billion shillings, in fact it was always a standard figure of 2 billion Kenya shillings, has been set aside for vocational training and colleges. Actually, we had reversed the plan of things, because first we provided the funds without being specific, and therefore when this money went to the various county governments, and you know it was divided to, you'll find another county gets 40 million, another one 170. Therefore governors will pick 1 or 2 shady things and just be creative about it. They'll pack young people in a particular tertiary institution for 1 week, pay suppliers, and then it will be considered that is vocational education and training. Yet that wasn't the intention. This bill now provides a proper legal framework of how counties are going to partner with this institution to ensure that we provide the requisite skills for our young people, Madam Speaker. But herein comes a challenge. Where is the money to set up these institutions, Madam Speaker? You all come from 47 county governments, colleagues, senators. And you know that if you speak to your members of the county assemblies, if you speak to your governors, you do realize the challenge and the strain that exists in terms of trying to use the kind of funds, the amount of funds that you are devolving, and match it. Increasingly, Madam Speaker, I see a challenge where as Senate, because of the challenges of Article 114 on money bills, we are continuing to lump up counties with various responsibilities, but without prescribing where this funding to set up most of these institutions are going to come from. And this is a challenge which as a House we must think and find a way of creatively advising, setting even a provision that the Cabinet Secretary say for a particular, even for Treasury, will gazette regulations on how you're going to raise funds to fund these tertiary institutions. Because how other countries have done it, Madam Speaker, is that various corporations and institutions are charged at least a set amount from the corporation tax that they pay. Part of it is set aside for training, because they understand if you do not continually train people, it will get to a particular time where even those very institutions, part of their succession planning, they will not be able to secure enough technicians and enough skilled people to perform these particular responsibilities. Therefore, I foresee a challenge for us as Senate, and we must tax our brains and think critically. How is it that as we continue to give, yet we do understand how budgeting is done, and we understand how the country is being run at this particular time, or even for the last 8 years. The National Assembly do not seem to appreciate that counties are part and parcel of the Republic of Kenya, and a thriving county does not in any way diminish your standing and stature as a member of parliament. I have never understood. That is one thing that I struggle with members of National Assembly every time that I engage them. They'll tell you they can't distinguish between a governor and a county government. It is possible to dislike a governor because of their bad practices, but still love your county, but still wish the best for your county government. You will find that when such a progressive bills get to the National Assembly, despite the fact that they have the powers now to even make addition, and I know once if they were to do that, we will quickly agree with that amendment to ensure that these institutions are properly funded, chances are they will not do it. Because they imagine, oh, this is just additional funds that we are sending to the counties. Every time some of these members of National Assembly think about counties, they think about the governor instead of the people of that particular county. We must create a mechanism of how we will fund these institutions so that they do not become
like many of these tertiary institutions that are lying idle. I appreciate what, for example, this administration has done with the TVETs. Of course, it's a useful and a step in the right direction, but more still needs to be done. Because, you know, Madam Speaker, I was speaking once to a colleague of mine who's in the National Assembly, and I found them arguing. Both of them come from my county. And one of them was telling the other that I cannot accept the machines that have been sent to my TVET center. Because I asked them, what's the challenge? They said, oh, can you imagine they have sent baking equipment? So people will be comparing that while you took mechanical fixing training equipments to your constituency, that I'm asking my people to be bakers and salonists. It's also part of culture change and things that we need to teach our people, because people need to appreciate. The point that it sends, Madam Speaker, or the thing that we learn from such experiences is that there is need to involve all stakeholders so that people appreciate. Indigenous knowledge, Madam Speaker, can never be replicated elsewhere. You cannot sit comfortably in Nairobi in your well air-conditioned offices and imagine you know better than the people that work, say, in Makueni. They will tell you what we think we need in our particular vocational education training centers are training to help us in do the following, because they have identified either masonry, or if there are certain agricultural products, they are involved in coffee, they'll tell you we need people to learn how to repair coffee machines. Because you'll be shocked that in many of our factories, even a county like Kericho, where I come from, we have many tea factories, but each time they break down, you'll find that we have to send all engineers all the way from India, where these machines were manufactured. And most of those people are actually graduates of tertiary institutions like this one, Madam Speaker. These are the kind of things that you're talking about, of what needs to be done. If there's a country in the world that have grasped this concept and we need to learn from them, then it is Germany. More than 50%, 51% actually to be specific, of their skilled laborers are graduates from these tertiary institutions. They call it the vets. And year on year, they ensure that these institutions are properly funded, that they receive the necessary support from the various corporations, and they continue to churn out technicians, people who are properly skilled, and they can be received by the various corporations and institutions because of how important a role they play in setting up the economy of that country. The reason that economy is a powerhouse is because of these people. It's not white-collar jobs. That's why they have hardly 40 to 45% only of white-collar trainees, but they focus more than half of their training in these particular people. I do hope that when this bill passes, Madam Speaker, we shall also continually fund and ensure that these institutions receive the requisite support. You do recall, Madam Speaker, if you are a follower of international politics, that at the height of his fight with China, President Trump tried to force the various corporations that American corporations that do business with China, that they should manufacture locally. But the corporations told him, Mr. President, while we appreciate and we will wish to give this job to local Americans in this country to manufacture for us things like phones and computers, tell us where we'll find those skilled technicians and in the volume that is needed. Because they might be available, but not to the volume that will be expected for the economies of scale, so that one corporation, say like IBM, where you can get 1 million people, yet these things are readily available in countries like China and Taiwan. I believe most of these people, and I know for a fact, these are not university graduates. These are technicians who've come from such institutions in those regions, that you have them in such an abundance that many institutions will even come and set up, will pitch tent here in our republic, because they know they can easily get skilled labor. Actually, Madam Speaker, this is one of the parameters that each and every time people talk about an enabling investment climate, skilled labor is one of the parameters that people look out for. They just want to know that despite the fact that you can give them good taxation, available power, they want to know, do you have people that can actually do this job and do it right? This is the example that we are learning, Madam Speaker. Part 4 of this bill, Madam Speaker, speak to the issue of curriculum. This is also extremely important because we do not want to allow every Tom, Dick, and Harry to just move around and say, oh, I've created a curriculum for how to, say, be a mason or do this or the other. Then these institutions will lack meaning. There is importance and there is wisdom. And I agree with the decision of the committee for curriculum to also still be standardized. Let us trust the age-old institutions like Kenya Institute of Curriculum Development to still be the institutions that are charged with the mandate of ensuring that they develop curriculum for these institutions. Of course, I'm sure they will infuse it with the local knowledge that I was talking about and partner with the local technicians who will generate new knowledge. You know, Madam Speaker, there is a feeling, and sometimes a very wrong one, in this country that sometimes when something stays for too long, that you somehow need to fix it either way. It is a kind of thinking that led people to go to a very good institution that we used to have here, called the Kenya Polytechnic. An institution that used to survive, to provide very skilled technicians for the various institutions in this country. Companies like East African Breweries used to pitch up tent there, and every year they had a standing interest, knowing that in any class, any graduating class with a diploma, the top 10 students will pick them and put them straight in the labor market because they knew how well those people. Somebody sat at Jogo House and said, Apana, they're not doing a good job. Let us convert it into a university. It's now teaching business management, marketing, you know, surely. So we need to protect institutions like Kenya Institute of Curriculum Development. Because, Madam Speaker, you would know that actually the more an institution ages, the better refined they become in the work that is doing. Utalii College is one such example. If you travel to the Middle East, and many of our colleagues do travel most of the time, the chances that any Kenyan you'll meet managing a hotel was trained at Utalii is almost 90%, including even others who come from different parts of the world to come and just study this world-class institution. Yet you'll find people trying to say, oh, I think it has been bypassed by time. We need to change it, convert it to a university, like we did with the rest of the institutions. We must protect this institution that produce such people. And how do you protect it? By ensuring that that curriculum is standardized so that it is developed, and anytime there is new knowledge that is coming, it is made to be part and parcel of that particular training. For this one, the part 4 of the bill, I concur and agree with the proposal that is being made by the committee. Finally, Madam Speaker, is the issue of this board that they have created. It's an important one, Madam Speaker. I only wish they had gone further than the traditional. You know, also, Madam Speaker, one of the things that we need to do as Parliament, especially we that are lawmakers, is to move away from this standardized way of drafting our laws. That it is known that any time when you're creating a board, we have the cliche qualifications that are set out. Must be a holder of a degree, CG, blah, blah, blah. I mean, let's be creators of new knowledge also. Let us specify and think better and say, have a representation, say, from religious groups, have a representation, say, I'm sure, say, a place like the county. Let me use Kericho, for example. I would have, it's because it's a county that I know it better, Senator Faki. I wanted to say, if I was to create such a board, you'll give a position, say, to the you'll allow the tea factories, which are in such an abundance, to have a nominee in that particular board, because they are the ones who know the kind of skill that they need, and they'll ensure that these institutions are training young people who can repair even these modern tea plucking machines that people are fighting, instead of embracing and realizing that this is part of the change that we need. Therefore, Madam Speaker, on that particular proposal, I still think we can do something better with it in terms of the composition of that particular board and specify who are the...
Honorable Senators, I just want to plead with you. If you don't need to take the 20 minutes, you can always donate, because we have members who've been sitting here the whole afternoon with an intention of making a contribution to this bill. So I think we should be fair in that direction. Senator Kilonzo Jr. Mutula Jr.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Speaker. I hope I can take a shorter period. Now that most senators have spoken to the bill and the contents of the bill, I think I'll skip that. Let me start by saying that I'm not sure, but I'm surprised that we are dealing with this now. We should have done it a little earlier. This is so urgent and so important that I'm tempted to say this is the solution to the so-called bottom-up approach and the contraption that I'm so against that I see with some political party. This is actually the solution of training young people to get skills. And I'm going to urge Senator Milgo, as I congratulate you for this bill, to visit an institution in Boni constituency called Wamboli Technical Institute. I've been there and I'm not quite sure whether the equipment I saw in that college is standard in the whole country, because it should be. Very modern equipment. They are making radios. They are making antennas. The nanotechnology is in Boni Technical Institute. So I would like the committee, as we debate on this bill, to confirm, because when it bothered me when Senator Cheruiyot said they got a bakery, because that's not what they are doing in Boni. They are doing modern technology. And as I said, they're building radios and battery cells, and that should be the standard all over the country, so that we can train people to do some of these things. Senator Cheruiyot is right, and I'm not sure he was in our team when we went to Germany, where we found young people, and they are not insisting. Their education is two-tier. You go to class, but you go to a technical institute. So here is a group of senators. We walked into an institution where we found young people fixing a Bosch engine, 18-year-olds. No wonder the German machines are the best in the world, because these young people were fixing this. We went to another technical institute, and they were doing what I'm calling the nanotechnology, where your aerial is stuck to your car, to the extent that, for example, if this road that we are doing on the expressway, if you need to make a payment, the payment will be on your windscreen, so that every time you cross the road, you don't need the toll stations that I've seen being demolished in Gilgil, that were just avenues for collecting money from poor Kenyans. Wouldn't it be nice, Dr. Milgo, that out of these technical institutes, you can have a pool of painters, that you can have a pool of carpenters, that you can have a pool of plumbers? I can tell you that we are getting our plumbers and carpenters from Machakos, because there are none in Makueni. It's not possible. So I think the ultimate goal of training these people is to find a pool of good painters and good trainers and good plumbers who can be used all over the country. Can I shock you that in my forays together with the speaker in Dubai, we discovered that we have only 23,000 Kenyans in UAE total, majority of whom are house helps. Now, we are famous in UAE for exporting house helps. It's not a bad thing, but it doesn't make sense at all to me that out of a country of so many young people, we are only exporting house helps. It's ridiculous. A young man walked into my office today, is doing a bureau to do house helps in Saudi Arabia. I mean, that's the best we can do for the country. It's a tragedy. The ambassador then shared with me a long list of workers required in Dubai, about 1,000, of all cadres of technical skills that are required in Dubai, including something that we don't think is important called washing of planes. Just washing planes in Dubai. Yet, it is such a well-paying job that half of the people who are sitting on desks in Nairobi are not paid as much as the people who are washing planes in DXB, we call it Dubai International Airport. So what you're doing is important, but we must create a pool so that then when all these organizations are looking for workers, trained, skilled workers, we can have them.
there's no better place that you find technology of people doing manual and skilled labor than UAE. I was privileged when I was Senator Cheriot. This good gentleman introduced me to a young man who left the country and went to Japan as an architect. He's now married to a Japanese, he speaks fluent Japanese, and is now in charge of disaster management insofar as buildings are concerned in Japan that are earthquake compliant, are Kenyan. It's unbelievable. And it's possible. This is one of those methods where we can actually give hope. And our education has failed because we have trained people to think that when you get a degree, you must get a job. As opposed to you can have a skill and you can get a job and work anywhere in the world. So this is a solution to some of the problems you're having with the youth. Somebody was complaining recently, and one of our colleagues, that we have so many architects. And these architects don't have jobs. There are places where they are expanding left, right, and center, and I think this forms a solution. Can I mention something that I have found very, very interesting, that even we, the ones in the legal profession, are hoping that we can train our lawyers. In Part 3 and Clause 3, every person, you have included something very important in Part C. Promotion of innovation, technology transfer, and entrepreneurial culture. Now, that is what is missing in our profession. All our professions. We are training lawyers, but we never train them to be entrepreneurs. We are training bankers, we don't train them to be entrepreneurs. We are bringing Chinese here to build a standard gauge railway. There's no technology transfer. When something breaks down, we still have to look for people all the way from Beijing to come and do very simple menial jobs like tightening screws and tightening bolts. No technology transfer. Now, this nice road that we are having, that I'm admiring every other time I'm driving to Makueni, I can tell you that the technology for doing that road will not be transferred to Kenyans. And it's a mistake. When we visited Thwake, we bothered to show the head of state a very interesting bridge drawn across Athi River. Very simple bridge, but it's carrying heavy load of concrete and stones. Yet ordinarily, if that bridge was to be given to the Kenyan engineer to do across Thwake River or Athi River, that we have been unable to do since 1963, it will cost 1 billion shillings. The top is wooden. That skill can be found through this. This is the most admirable thing in your bill, technology transfer. Because that's what we need to do to our young people. So that across our rivers, all over the country, we can have a bridge I saw in Thwake, which I am sure didn't cost much. I am concerned in Clause 4 about examination standards. This is what is ailing the Kenyan education system. Everything is about examination. So can we walk away from examination standards and find something else that is more useful? As I complete, I want to say, and I would like to urge you to visit that college that is in Mboni constituency and propose that we have the same standards all over the country. In Konza Techno City, they are going to bring a university called KAIST, which is going to teach innovation, which is part and parcel of what you want to do here. We must, in doing vocational education, we must also include innovation. You've mentioned it here, but let's give it a little more prominence, that we are not just teaching people to do skills, we are teaching people to be innovative. I was given a title, the Konza Innovation Champion, because I brought young people to do very simple innovation. And a young man from Dandora, sponsored by Senator Sakaja, beat class 8 students, and he had never seen a laptop in his life. But when they were given an opportunity to do innovation, do a compass, do a small thermometer, on a computer. This young boy from Dandora slums was able to beat a lot of these students. And therefore, I think that one of the things you can do is include innovation in this. Congratulations, Senator Dr. Alice Milgo, for this very, 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 very important bill. It's a solution. I hope that if I also sit in Makueni, this is one of those things that I would put as emphasis number one, because this is the solution. This is it. This is the answer to the cry by young people that we are not including them and we are not training them. Because it's not a contradiction to have a young man with a degree in engineering and he has another skill. That's what I saw in Germany, what Senator Cheriot is referring to. You have a degree in business management, but you also have another skill through the vocational training. I support. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator, for even donating a few minutes to your colleagues. Honorable Senators, I don't think it would be wrong for us to reduce the time so that we accommodate, unless somebody is really against that. If you are not, we will reduce to 10 minutes so that we accommodate our colleagues who've been sitting here the whole time. Senator Mwinyi Haji Mohamed, Senator from Mombasa.
Asante Bispika kwa kunipa fursa hii kuchangia mswada wa elimu ya mafunzo ya kiufundi. Bispika, kwanza ningependa kumpongeza Senator Dr. Milgo pamoja na kamati nzima ya elimu ya Senate kwa mswada huu ambao kwa kusema ukweli ni mswada ambao utasaidia pakubwa vijana katika nchi yetu ya Kenya na vile vile wale ambao wameweza kuhitimu masomo mbalimbali lakini hawana elimu ya kiufundi. Mheshimiwa Spika, ufundi kama useremala, uwashi, yani ujenzi na mengineyo vinahitajika pakubwa ili kusaidia taifa hili kusonga mbele katika kuendelea duniani. Mheshimiwa Spika, tukiangalia masomo ya kiufundi yalianza siku nyingi, lakini kwa kuwa hakuna mfumo wa kuweza kuyabeba, umekuwa ni vitu vinafanyika kibahati nasibu. Kwa mfano, Mheshimiwa Spika, mimi nilipoingia form 1 miaka mingi iliyopita, nilikuwa nafanya somo la useremala, carpentry na vile vile metal work, ufundi wa kujenga vitu kama vile majiko na vyombo vingine vya kutumika. Kwa hiyo Mheshimiwa Spika, sio jambo la ajabu kufanya masomo ya kiufundi. Ni jambo ambalo limekuwa, na hata mimi baadaye ufundi ule unaweza kunisaidia kuweza kufanya kazi ndogo ndogo katika nyumba yangu wakati niko nyumbani. Kwa hiyo Mheshimiwa Spika, masomo ya kiufundi ni muhimu sana katika jamhuri yetu na itasaidia pakubwa vijana wanaoinukia ambao hawakubahatika kwa masomo kama vile kwenda university na kusoma masomo mengine. Mheshimiwa Spika, ufundi huu pia haumaanishi kwamba wale waliosoma masomo ya university hawezi kushiriki. La, wanaweza kushiriki kwa sababu inasaidia pakubwa ili kuweza kupata ajira ama kujiajiri binafsi katika kazi ambazo umeweza kuhitimu. Mheshimiwa Spika, kwa sasa ni taasisi chache sana katika nchi yetu ya Kenya ambayo zinatoa masomo ya kiufundi kwa vijana ambao labda wamemaliza darasa la 8 ama wamemaliza masomo ya kidato cha 4 na hawakuweza kubahatika kwenda university. Kwa hivyo hii itasaidia pakubwa Mheshimiwa Spika kuweka mfumo ambao utakuwa unatoa mwongozo wa kisawasawa katika swala kama hili. Mheshimiwa Spika, nina maswala machache juu ya maelezo yani definition ya hii elimu ya kiufundi katika mswada huu. Tukiangalia katika kifungu cha pili, baadhi ya maelezo ya definition yanakuwa ni kama kurejelea mambo kama yale yale. Kwa mfano, tukiangalia public vocational education and training center means a vocational education and training center established, owned or operated by a county government and includes a sponsored vocational education and training center. Mheshimiwa Spika, hii ni kubadilisha maneno kama vile alivyofanya Mheshimiwa Senator Orengo juzi alipokuwa akisema kwamba swala la noun and verb are one and the same. Mheshimiwa Spika, ukiangalia pia vocational education and training mwisho hapa katika kifungu cha pili inamaanisha vocational education and training programs imparted in a trainee in a vocational and education training center, yani mafunzo yanayofundishwa katika kituo cha elimu ya kiufundi. Haitoi mwongozo kwa mfano mheshimiwa, kwa kusema kwa mfano hivi masomo ya kiufundi ni masomo ya useremala, masomo ya ufundi wa kujenga, masomo ya kiufundi ya kuunganisha umeme yani electrical na mengineyo, kama masomo ya kiufundi ya kupika, masomo ya kiufundi ya kutengeneza vikapu na mambo kama hayo. Kwa Mheshimiwa Spika, ipo haja ya kuangalia kwa undani haya masuala ya vipi tutaweza kutambua masomo ya kiufundi. Haya maelezo yaliyopeanwa sasa Mheshimiwa Spika kwa mswada huu hayatoi mwongozo kamili wa masomo ya kiufundi. Mheshimiwa Spika, jambo la kufurahisha pia ni kwamba serikali zetu za kaunti zinapewa jukumu katika masomo haya ya kiufundi. Tumeona kwamba wengi wanapigania kazi za kuajiriwa, lakini Mheshimiwa Spika, kazi siku hizi nyingi ni za kujiajiri mwenyewe, na masomo ya kiufundi kama haya yanatoa fursa ya kuweza kujiajiri mwenyewe. Tatu, Mheshimiwa Spika, kuweka msingi ama standard ya kuweza kutambua ama ya kuweza kutahini wale wanaofanya mitihani masomo ya kiufundi. Mheshimiwa Spika, pia imekuwa ni swala zuri sana, kwa sababu tunaona wengi wanaofanya kazi za ufundi kwa sasa hawana certificate, isipokuwa wale ambao wanakwenda kupitia kwa government trade test, ambao kwa wengi wanashindwa kufanya hivyo kwa sababu wengine wanatakana wende wakafanya masomo, wakaandike mtihani wa masomo ya oral, yani ya theory, ambao kwa mfano hawakuweza kufaulu vizuri Kiingereza. Kwa hivyo inakuwa shida wao kuweza kupata shahada kwa kupitia mfumo wa sasa. Kwa hiyo Mheshimiwa Spika, mswada huu utatoa fursa ya wale ambao wamesoma tu wamefanya ile practical part, yani ile masomo ambayo ile kazi ambayo wanatakana kufanya, kwa mfano ni kujenga, kwa mfano ni kufanya kazi ya seremala, kwa mfano ni kazi ya kufanya plumbing ama fundi wa mifereji, wataweza kufanya mitihani kama ile bila ya kuwa na hofu kwamba wataanguka mtihani kwa sababu hawakusoma somo la Kiingereza, na kwa vile mitihani mingi imeandikwa kwa somo la Kiingereza. Mheshimiwa Spika, hivi vyuo pia vitakuwa na mfumo kamili ambao unatambulika, ili ukiwa unatoka kaunti moja kwenda kaunti nyingine unaweza kujiunga na chuo katika sehemu nyingine na uendelee na masomo yako bila ya kuwa na matatizo yoyote. Mheshimiwa Spika, tumeona pia kwamba hata wale ambao ni watu wenye ulemavu, watu wanaoishi na ulemavu pia katika kifungu cha 7 wameweza kupewa nafasi pia wafundishwe wakiwa na special needs. Mheshimiwa Spika, najiunga pia na maseneta wenzangu kusema kwamba ule mfumo ambao kwa mfano kuwa na board of directors tuondoe, tuweke mfumo wa kuwa na board of management, ili kila anayekuwa pale anakuwa ni msimamizi wa vyuo vile, ili tuweze kuhakikisha kwamba kuna usimamizi wa kisasa. Mheshimiwa Spika, tumeona kwamba zamani kule Mombasa tulikuwa na chuo cha Miome, yani Mombasa Islamic Institute, ambayo ilikuwa inatoa mafunzo kama haya. Baadaye ikageuzwa ikawa ni polytechnic na ikaendelea kwa polytechnic mpaka mwaka juzi katika miaka 2000 wakati ilipofanywa kuwa ni chuo kikuu tu. Hiyo imepoteza nafasi kubwa kwa watu wa Mombasa, kwa sababu yale masomo ya kiufundi ambayo yalikuwa yanafanyika pale hivi sasa hayapatikani, na hivyo inafanya kuwa watu wengi waweze kuondoka kuja kutafuta masomo yale katika sehemu zingine katika nchi. Kwa hiyo Mheshimiwa Spika, hizi vocational institute vyuo vya kiufundi ambavyo vimezungumziwa hapa vitasaidia kwa kubwa kuleta elimu ya kiufundi mashinani, kwa sababu elimu hii itakuwa inasaidia zaidi wale ambao wanapatikana mashinani, na wataweza kuwapa ajira na vile vile pia kuwapa ufundi ambao unahitajika katika kila sehemu. Mheshimiwa Spika, kuna sehemu zingine ambazo zina ufundi maalum. Kwa mfano ukienda Lamu utapata kwamba kuna waseremala wale ambao wanatengeneza zile Lamu carvings ama Lamu door, ambayo inasaidia inatoa taswira nzuri sana ya kaunti ya Lamu, na vile vile pia inapeana nafasi ya utalii, na pia inapeana nafasi ya kupata pesa nyingi kwa mifumo kama ile. Tuangalia vyombo vinatengenezwa na ufundi kama ule, Mheshimiwa Spika, vinagharimu pesa nyingi kwa sababu ya ule ufundi wa kuchonga ambao unaambatana na taaluma hiyo. Kwa hiyo Mheshimiwa Spika, huu ufundi kama huu hauwezi kupatikana katika vyuo vya kisasa vya kiufundi, lakini inaweza kupatikana kwa wale ambao wameweza kuwa na taaluma ile kwa muda mrefu, na wengi wao Mheshimiwa Spika hawakwenda shule ambako wakaweza kufundishwa taaluma kama hiyo. Lakini tukitoa nafasi kama hii ya vyuo vya kiufundi, itawapa nafasi wale ambao wana taaluma kama hizi kuweza kuzipitisha kwa vizazi vifuatavyo, na hivyo naunga mkono Mheshimiwa Spika mswada huu, na najua utasaidia pakubwa kupunguza ukosefu wa ajira katika nchi yetu, na vile vile pia kuleta maendeleo, kwa sababu zile ambazo wale ambao watafundishwa watatumia ujuzi wao kusaidia kuinua uchumi wetu kwa njia mbalimbali, na hiyo itakuwa ni faida kubwa tumeweza kupata kwa mswada huu. Asante Bi Spika kwa kunipa fursa hii.
Senator Halake Abshiro Soka.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I thank you very much for giving me this opportunity. Let me also take this opportunity to congratulate Senator Milgo and her committee for a timely bill. This bill is definitely one that will strengthen the policy and regulatory framework for technical and vocational education in this country. But this bill does a lot of things and ticks a lot of boxes, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, this bill, if implemented well, will definitely also be one that would strengthen our protection of counties and devolution, so to speak. Madam Speaker, I will not speak too much to the content of the bill because my colleagues have done justice to it. The bill has a lot of definitions and has defined a lot of the provisions very well. It has also really described the establishment, registration, and accreditation of vocational education, has also really set out the management of vocational education and training centers, and quality standards have been set, as well as the transitional provisions. So with that, I think I'm happy. But one of the things that we need as an institution or as Parliament, as we make laws, is to really look at the relevance, the quality, and the alignment to the country's strategies, policies, and what we call, the development agenda of the country. Towards what end are our institutions aligned? To what strategies are our institutions aligned? Do we have the right institutions? Is it relevant with the courses that we're going to, and what courses are we going to offer? Madam Speaker, one of the things that we need to then do is that our legislative proposals, do they improve the relevance, the quality, employability, say, of our youth, for instance, in this particular case, and which the answer is, which Senator Milgo is yes. But what do we have? What have we put in place to ensure that counties are able to do some of the roles you have assigned to them? And just looking at the roles that was assigned to counties, for which I was a bit concerned, was that, for them then to be able to be responsible for staffing of personnel of vocational training and institutions, supervision of vocational education and training within the county. If we know what our counties are as it is, will they be able to supervise, say, good skills level that is going to be provided at our TVET institutions and do justice to it? Where will they get, that capacity themselves to be able then to supervise. Provide funds necessary, I think that is okay because somebody must find, implement the policies, strategies, and standards developed by the county government for the delivery of vocational education and training and implementation of this act. Again, perhaps the alignment to the broader national policies and legislative frameworks and regulations need to be the line of sight needs to be very clear so that then we don't have different standards being implemented and being supervised by different counties. But that having been said, Madam Speaker, I congratulate the team. I don't want to speak too much to this, but the other issue is the measurement. What will the counties be measuring? Are they going to measure, did we do 1,000 students who then don't have the requisite skills to do the needs? Have we then put the provisions in place so that the measurements are not just to churn out numbers, but also are aligned to the outcomes we want? For instance, the capacities that we need in the county for the socio-economic development of the county, for the employment of the county youths, and such things become the measure of success in this particular case. Madam Speaker, again, we need to align the county development plans to the needs of the capacity of the county, and then from there, look at things like, what do we need? Do we need skills in building construction? Do we need skills in power and energy generation, in water distribution, in large public works, agro-processing, hospitality, and other value adds to perhaps the oil we are doing in Turkana or the mining we are doing in Kwale. So again, our legislation must be aligned to these kinds of strategies for socio-economic development, because it's not an end in itself to produce 1,000 people who have said they have a certification, but who do not have the requisite skills for specific needs of the county, be it agro-processing, be it hospitality, be it value addition to our mining industry, for instance, or for solar projects, for instance. So again, these are some of the things. But again, congratulations for making sure that you mentioned the need for having ICT integrated into all our trainings, because again, it can be an area for quality improvement, it can be an area for technology transfer and innovation, and could also be an area that would definitely add value in terms of just the e-learning and future of our pedagogy, so to speak, Madam Speaker. Again, TVET training or technical training or vocational training in itself does not ensure that we have jobs. It is what we do with the skills and how aligned the skills are. Again, integrating things like ensuring flexibility, for instance. If, let's say, in Isiolo County, we are training, say, for hospitality industry because we want to be, a resort city, we must build a flexibility into these trainings so that as things change, as we now start going into solar energy, as LAPSET corridor comes to our neighborhood, we can flexibly and quickly then integrate some of these things. Madam Speaker, again, as I finish and as I congratulate the team and the committee, one of the things that we need to really look at in terms of the capabilities and capacities is the whole issue of making sure that we are ensuring that education systems and quality improvement and technological improvement are not just left to the county, but is also, triangulated with the national government so that our counties have, the same quality standards as opposed to then everybody having different levels. So with those few remarks, Madam Speaker, I thank you for giving me the opportunity. I look forward to really the implementation of this, and the capacity this has is to also change the minds of the people so that we don't look at technical education and vocational education as some inferior education. In countries like Canada, the Northern Alberta Institute of Technology is one of the places where students don't even finish the college. Industry starts to grab them. Again, what partnerships do we have with private sector Should we be giving tax rebates and tax exemptions for industries that are providing technical training and providing internships and things like that, so that then we don't expect government to have all the answers and have all the capacity building, and we then start getting into areas of, of partnerships where we are also incentivizing the private sector to help us in this process. So I hope those kinds of things can be built into this legislation, so that then we start encouraging our industry to be part of this journey, because really this is going to be a really good innovative piece of legislation that is going to turn our country around and provide employment and also add value to all the things we need to grow to make sure our counties are thriving. I thank you, Madam Speaker. I cede the rest of my time, and I congratulate the committee once again.
You've consumed all your time, Honorable Senator. Senator Haji Faria Ali.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for giving me this opportunity.
Haji Faria Ali.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for giving me this opportunity. I also wish to thank Senator Milgo and her committee for the foresight to address a glaring gap in legislation. Madam Speaker, we've been churning out a lot of white-collar jobs in our institutions. The question I have is, have people been, in schools, when people are finishing schools, are there proper career guidance in terms of where people have skills and they can branch into? Because we cannot explain that everybody goes to university and we have a lot of graduates out there who don't have jobs. So that's some of the things I question is, what mechanism has the Ministry of Education inculcated in schools to ensure that students are properly guided in terms of which career to take? And then the other thing is the career and the job market match. Even that needs to be discussed in schools, because we need to identify where are the gaps in terms of knowledge that we need. Because we cannot afford to be people who are, for you to have 2 people of white-collar job, we will need around 10 people of blue-collar job. So if we are only training white-collar job, how are we going to get them jobs? And then the other thing is also, Madam Speaker, the other thing is that manufacturing is one of the Jubilee manifesto in terms of how to create jobs and how to produce. We cannot be an economy that is just consuming. We have to be an economy that is producing. Otherwise, we will finish all the resources we have and we'll have nothing to pay for our bills. And that is where we are heading if we don't change our course. So I'm glad that through this bill, that is going to change, Madam Speaker. And then the other thing is, if we produce locally all the equipment that we need in this country, we'll be saving a lot of foreign exchange. And that means also our economy develops in tandem with how much skillful our population is. Madam Speaker, in terms of ICT, actually I'm kind of disappointed, because ICT in Kenya, we were ahead in terms of, mobile banking, other things. It's an innovation that was great. Then what happened in between? I think we need to harness that, because that is the future of how things will go in terms of innovation and development. We need to identify where is the pain in terms of for the society, and how can we address to make money. Because unless you solve a problem, you can never make money. So that is how we should be looking at it. And then there is also a need for specialization. Senator Wetangula talked about different people going to different counties. You can only do that if each county has its own specialization, and anybody who needs that specialization goes to that county. Otherwise, if all of us mass produce, we will have, blue-collar jobs that also don't have jobs as well again. So I think it is need to have specialization. This county specializes in this. And everybody knows that Wajir County is specialist in animal, related training, that if you go there, that is where you will find. And if that is their interest, that is where you go. Not everybody doing the same thing and then nothing happens. And then I tend to think that if we go for training, then it means we have to be self-employing. We should be able to employ ourselves. And if you are employing ourselves, we need startup capital. Senator Milko, maybe this is one of the things you need to add, that part of the curriculum development in terms of the county, their priority should be capital, injection, even if it is a revolving fund where people, you give this one returns, this other one takes, so that it doesn't have to be, because people need to be responsible financially. You can give them soft loan that is without interest, so that at least when they start up, they don't have to struggle again paying with a loan with a lot of interest from a bank, which consumes all their profit, then there is no incentive to do the work. And then finally, there is need to match skills to the market. What is necessary? What is necessary in our market? What is necessary in the neighboring country? What is necessary in Canada, wherever it is that you need to address? But there is need to do that in absence of job market with the skill matching. Then whatever else that we will do will just waste of resources. Madam Speaker, I support, and I also wish to cede my time.
Thank you, Senator, for ceding your time. Finally, Senator Shebeni Masi.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to also say something on this bill. I want to say that this is a very important bill, and I want to congratulate Senator Milgo's committee for taking care of this matter in this republic. Madam Speaker, this bill is very timely, and I say this because when you look at the future of workforce in Kenya, or maybe even in the world, it's aimed at what skills one has. We are going to look at what technical capacity one has, and this will be able to, pay your bills and get you some coins here and there. So, Madam Speaker, having frameworks put in place to ensure that we plan for our future and the future labor force is very critical, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, when you look at Clause 3, it speaks about guiding principles. And particularly 3B, it talks about equality, equity, and non-discrimination in the provision of the vocational training. Recognition of trainees with special needs. Madam Speaker, this is very important because you realize that young people who are disabled or young people living with disabilities, most of the time are not incorporated when it comes to the educational sector, Madam Speaker. So therefore, Madam Speaker, this bill really shows that we are not going to leave anyone behind, that we are going to give opportunity even for young people who have disabilities in this country, Madam Speaker. When you look at Clause 4, it talks about obligations of the national government, and I want to agree with this bill that the national government deals with standards, policy, curriculum development, accreditation of institutions, and so on. But most importantly, Madam Speaker, the aspect of monitoring and evaluation of vocational programs. I think this is very important because many times we develop programs, but we don't see them to conclusion. We don't see what is working for us or what does not work. We don't keep checking to see the relevance of these programs, Madam Speaker. So I think that is a very important aspect of this clause, Madam Speaker. When you look at Clause 5, it talks about obligations of the county governments. And one of the clauses that I really liked is the one that ensures that county governments carry out public awareness and advocacy. Madam Speaker, this will go well towards changing the attitude and perception about TVETs in our country, Madam Speaker. Sharing information will change the attitudes of young people towards vocational training. And lastly, Madam Speaker, when you look at that clause, it talks about promotion and circulation of up-to-date information to the public, so that we don't rely on information that is not there, that information that is up to date, and it will serve the young people of this country. When you look at Clause 7, Madam Speaker, it talks about trainee with special needs. Again, we are not leaving anyone behind, that young people with disabilities and special needs are taken care of, and they're given this very important training and education. When you look at Clause 32, again, it talks about examination and competency, and especially 1B, issue of certificate to a trainee. I think, Madam Speaker, painters, masons, plumbers, and electricians need to be considered as professionals in this country. That they're given certificates that will ensure that we can market our technicians out here. Lastly, Madam Speaker, I think the national government should also conduct a skills gap analysis in the country as they consider the courses for the trainees, they consider the gaps in the workforce, so that we're not
thank all the senators that have contributed to this bill. Very many of them, well over 15. And in this case, we have a lot of amendments to make to this bill, a lot of cleaning to be done. Without mentioning the names of the senators, I've said, I think up to 17 senators have contributed, and very interesting and good clauses to be added there. Notable among them is, in this case, linkage to entrepreneurial and micro enterprises. And in this case, benchmark with the best practices, advertisement, and if, and for that matter, even ensuring that we have the skills to export rather than exporting maybe tea and domestic households. Madam Speaker, I think there is a lot to be done to this bill, and my committee is equal to the task. As I reply, I want to thank my strong committee, the Secretariat, and everyone that has had an input to this particular bill, because this will go a long way to actually be a game changer to the economy of our country. Madam Speaker, I then beg to reply, and I wish to request that pursuant to Standing Order 61.3, the putting of the question be deferred to a later date. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
That is granted. It will be put at a later date once next time it is listed. Honorable Senators, it is now 6:30 p.m. Time to adjourn the House. The Senate therefore stands adjourned until Tuesday, 20th July 2021 at 2:30 p.m.